Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Today, we'll discuss port binding, explaining how it allows us to map host ports to container ports for communication. We'll see the process and share practical use cases. By the end, you'll know how to effectively use port binding with any container. You can see that the ports section is present, which specifies the port on which the container listens for incoming requests. Both containers are opening the same port defined in the image. This allows external traffic to access the services within the containers. You can check the running ports in the container logs, like port 6379. So, how does this work? And how do we avoid conflicts when both containers use the same port? To clarify this, let's move to our slides and explore the details. We'll look at how Docker manages port bindings to ensure smooth operation. A container is a virtual environment that runs on your host machine, packaging applications with their dependencies. It shares the host OS kernel while maintaining isolation. You can run multiple containers simultaneously on your host machine. Your laptop has available ports that can be used for different applications. You can utilize these ports to facilitate communication between various services. You create a binding to connect the host's port with the container's port. This enables incoming traffic on the host to reach the container. For example, in the first container, you can see that it is listening on container port 5000. You have also bound your laptop's port 5000 to this container to facilitate communication. If you open to services on the host using port 5000, a conflict will occur. You'll receive a message saying the port is already bound or in use, preventing multiple services from using the same port. However, you can run to different containers that both listen on port 3000 if you bind them to separate ports on the host. This ensures that both applications can operate independently and be accessed simultaneously. Once the port binding is established, you can connect to the running container using the host's port. For example, you can access the container using localhost along with the specified host port. This setup allows you to interact with the services easily. Port binding ensures that any requests are forwarded to the corresponding port in the container. You can see that the containers have their own ports and are running on the same port. However, because we haven't created a binding, the containers are unreachable for any application. This lack of binding means that any requests directed to those ports won't reach the containers. As a result, I won't be able to use the services running inside them. The way to achieve this is by specifying the port bindings during the run command. We want to start the containers with bindings between the host and container ports using two different ports on the laptop. To do this, we use the P option to specify the host's port. This ensures that each container's port is correctly mapped to a separate port on the host, allowing for seamless communication. We have two Redis instances, so we need to bind them to two different ports on our laptop. We can use port 6000, which will be bound to the container port 6379. This setup allows our laptop's port 6000 to connect to the container's port 6379. As a result, we can access the Redis instance running inside the container through the specified host port. Now, I will start it in detached mode so that I can see the port number. Now, I will start the second container. If I try to bind the same port on my laptop to this second container, I will get a port already allocated error. This error occurs because each port on the host must be unique for different containers. I will bind it to port 6001 and run the container in detached mode. Now, I can see that I have two different Redis versions, each bound to separate ports. This setup allows me to access both instances without any conflict. Meanwhile, the containers are still listening for requests on the same port internally. So friends, we have seen how port binding works in Docker basic commands. If you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, let us know in the comments what else you would like to learn about Docker. See you in the next video.